Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today. We are stepping into the high stakes, deeply important world of ethical and legal documentation at Restoring Hope Ministries. Listen, if you are a biblical counselor, a pastoral care worker, or an RHSBC student, the words you type into a client record, they carry immense weight. Your documentation is a sacred stewardship. It requires humility, restraint, and an absolute unwavering commitment to role clarity. So today, we are going to learn exactly how to master this standard.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the central problem we face. How do we safely document a really common, highly effective counseling technique, one that's often clinically referred to as Socratic questioning, without accidentally crossing legal boundaries? You see, using clinical language in your notes actively implies that you are providing licensed psychotherapy. And if you aren't functioning in a licensed clinical role, using terms like Socratic questioning or psychotherapy creates severe legal risk, especially under Wisconsin state law. We literally have to be incredibly precise. So here is our roadmap for today. First, the stakes of documentation. Second, inside the objective section. Third, safe Christ-like questioning. And finally, we'll wrap up with the approved template.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the stakes of documentation, protecting the boundary.
Now, true ethics, that begins in worshipful reverence, not just in checking boxes for policy compliance. Notice the direct contrast here on the screen. The boundary lines need to be crystal clear for any RHM counselor. RHM notes should accurately document biblical care without falsely presenting the service as a clinical diagnosis or medical care. Simply put, you cannot use words like therapist, diagnosis, or Socratic questioning unless you are properly credentialed and working in a licensed care role. Instead, your notes absolutely must utilize accurate pastoral language, biblical counselor, presenting concern, and wisdom questions. The really beautiful part of the RHM approach is that the familiar SOAP structure, subjective, objective, assessment, and plan, well, it stays exactly the same. We don't need to reinvent the wheel or create a whole new charting system to be biblically faithful. But we absolutely must rigorously change the vocabulary and the interpretive frame. Precision in this documentation protects vulnerable counselees from overreach. And honestly, it protects the public witness of Christ-centered ministry as a whole. Let's move on and see how this builds in Section 2, inside the objective section. The O in SOAP. The objective section is absolutely crucial. This is where RHM can most clearly show the biblical intervention that was actually used. It's the space to document what you, the counselor, physically observed and did in the session. Notice what this is not for, right? It is not a space for diagnosing or motive reading. It's meticulously designed for proving what concrete care action took place, things like listening, teaching, clarifying, or asking questions. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we validate those actions. Over in the objective section, you are required to use scripture parentheticals. These function as heavy, foundational anchors for our care actions. We aren't just randomly dropping in Bible verses to decorate the note, or worse, to pressure a counselee. We are identifying the actual, solid biblical logic of the care action we just utilized. Moving right along to Section 3, safe Christ-like questioning. Translating the technique. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. How do we safely document that inherently clinical concept of Socratic questioning? Well, here is your official, approved vocabulary. You can safely refer to this technique in your notes as using wisdom questions or Christ-like searching questions. These are the safe RHM equivalents. It's a real game changer because this perfectly translates a secular technique into a deeply biblical action, keeping you safely within the pastoral scope of practice. So, when writing your entry for these questions in the objective section, you need to clearly describe the pastoral purpose behind them. You see, questions aren't just for gathering raw data. They serve a profound pastoral purpose. Your questions slow the counselee down into truthful reflection, rather than just rushing to quick advice. You use them for inviting truthfulness, for examining underlying desires and fears, or for gently challenging a fixed, maybe unhelpful interpretation that a counselee might be desperately clinging to. And this brilliantly illustrates our point about scripture anchors. To document your Christ-like questioning, you must use specific biblical parentheticals. We rely on anchors like Genesis 3:9, Mark 10:51, Luke 24:17, and John 5:6. These specific verses are incredible because they demonstrate exactly how God and Jesus used questions as revelatory, transformative interventions to draw out the heart, reveal faith, examine desire, and prompt agency.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 4, the approved template, constructing the entry.
This is the tactical application, guys, the gold standard, where we build the perfect note. Here is the exact step-by-step formula for a perfect, objective entry. This is designed to ensure you feel entirely equipped and never overwhelmed. Step 1, you state the care action, using that approved scope-safe language. Step 2, you describe the pastoral purpose behind the action. And Step 3, you anchor that action with the appropriate scripture parentheticals. So the crucial point is this exact template provided in the RHM training. Let me read it to you word for word. Biblical counselor used open, searching questions to invite truthfulness, examine desire and fear, and gently challenge a fixed interpretation of the situation. Genesis 3:9, Mark 10:51, Luke 24:17, John 5:6. Whenever you utilize Christ-like searching questions or wisdom questions in a session, this is the precise text you can rely on to safely and ethically record that action, right there in your SOAP note.
Now, once that note is perfectly crafted using our template, there's one final absolutely critical operational lock. You must securely finalize the client record in Theranest and delete any temporary working copies from your local device or your Microsoft 365 staging folders. The technological rule of life at RHM is simple. Temporary technology convenience must never, ever become scattered records or uncontrolled disclosures. The client record belongs in the approved system, period. Let's leave off with a thought to reflect upon as we wrap up this explainer. If your documentation is quite literally a public witness of Christ-centered care, does every word you write reflect both truth and humility? The words we choose matter deeply. They protect the vulnerable, they respect the bounds of our calling, and they honor the Lord. Thank you so much for joining me today, and truly, thank you for your commitment to this incredibly vital, sacred work.